This is the second part of Chapter 6. What if we are deeply connected with our disempowering labels? People often ask, what if I do not come to that decision? What if the disempowering labels are so ingrained in me and I cannot let them go? I can relate to that question because I wrestled with my own ugly labels for many years. There was no magic moment when I finally let go of those labels, but there was definitely a turning point. And today, you can take this turn on your road. Imagine you're trying to get to Manhattan from Brooklyn. You get on the train, you sit back in your seat, and you're on your way. 15 minutes later, you look out the window and, whoops, the street name is further into Brooklyn. You're going in the opposite direction of Manhattan. So you get off the train, cross to the other side of the platform, and start your trip all over again. You do not lose more than a few minutes of your time. Now, what would happen if you never looked out the window? Or what if you do not know the streets well enough to notice that you're going in the opposite direction? Like a rider on a fast horse, you could quickly turn towards the right direction when you get lost, but you'll only change your direction when you realize your mistake. If you don't notice that you're moving away from your desired destination, you will not change. It's the same with the places we go in our minds. Disempowering labels are like trains of thought. They come into our mind station, open their doors, welcoming us aboard, and then they continue driving. We do not have to ride on every train that opens its doors. We can let the trains leave without us. But let's say we make a mistake. Let's say we ride with a thought or with a disempowering label, and it's taking us away from where we want to be going in our lives. What will help us change? What will help us get where we want to go? The same kind of awareness. As soon as we realize that we're going the wrong way, we'll get moving. We'll turn around towards the other direction. It's easy to jump up and say, whoops, wrong train. By contrast, it takes a tremendous amount of humility and courage to look at our beliefs and say, I was wrong. And it takes something more than humility and courage. It takes a strong sense of connection with the truth. When you're choosing which train to ride, you read the signs and follow the directions. But what if the signs are confusing? What if the sign that states north is actually going south? That's the kind of confusion we face when we're trying to navigate our way through our beliefs. In our world today, ideas that contradict Hashem's reality appear to be unquestionably true. Ideas that are aligned with Hashem's reality appear to be irrelevant. Worse, imagine if you're trying to walk off the train, but you're stuck to the seat with crazy glue. Sometimes, even when we want to let go of a disempowering label, we feel as if we cannot walk away from it. It's as if we must hold on to that label. We belong here with this label. It's true and it's real. That can be the biggest challenge we face in getting to where we want to go in our lives. Deep inside, we might believe that we belong on the other side of the street, where stress, resentment, and helplessness is unavoidable. So we continue doing things that perpetuate our darkness. Since this sense of belonging is deeper than logic, we cannot detach by simply arguing with it. The Palatanya advises, do not argue with darkness. Instead, turn on the light. Become aware of the truth. In the light of the truth, the darkness automatically loses its hold on us. So how do we turn on the light? Learn about Hashem's reality. Immerse your mind in learning from Sefarim such as Chovos HaLevavos, the Tanya, Likutei Torah, or other Sefarim which explore Hashem's awesomeness. In today's world, we are blessed to have many of these fundamental Sefarim translated and explained in many languages. There are 3 levels of acquiring information. The first is called Chachma, wisdom. This level of knowledge is a spark of insight. We experience wisdom when we hear or read about an idea for just a fleeting moment. The idea does not have any tangible impact on our lives. It's an intellectual, undeveloped piece of information. The second level of acquiring information is called Bina, understanding. We experience understanding when we develop the initial insight, when we think about it some more and we come to understand it. The third level is called Da'as. It's a complete connection with the knowledge. We experience this connection when the idea is no longer an intellectual piece of information in our minds. It's a reality we can feel and experience. Da'as is when the knowledge is part of us. It impacts every aspect of our lives. When the Torah informs us that a couple got married and had children, the Torah uses the word da'as to imply that intimate connection. When Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, Hashem said that the purpose of the 10 Makos was V'yedu Mitzrayim ki ani Hashem, so that Mitzrayim will know that I am Hashem. There too, the Torah uses the word da'as, a knowing that is deeply experienced and internalized. With every miracle that Hashem performed for us in the desert, the Torah repeatedly uses the words da'as. Hashem wants us to know Him in a way of da'as, the kind of knowing that is inseparable and uncontestable. The Navi Yeshaya tells us that when Mashiach comes, Ki mal'a ha'aretz dea es Hashem, kamayim layam mechasim. The world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem like waters cover the seas. Here too, the word for knowledge is not chachma or bina, but da'as, a knowing that is intimately experienced. In today's world, our minds are constantly bombarded with information. We experience most of the information in a way of chachma. It barely registers on our personal radars. If the information is not screaming at us, it's not getting our attention. But sometimes information grabs our attentiveness. We think about it. We wonder, we ask questions, we look for answers. That is our experience of the second level of knowing. That's Bina. And very rarely, something touches us so deeply, it fills every inch of our mind and heart. We think about it repeatedly, with focused attention and with intense involvement. Personal connection is the supreme form of knowing. That is our experience of Da'as. The Baal HaTanya encourages us to invest time thinking about Hashem's greatness. When we learn about Hashem's greatness in a way of Chachma or even Bina, the information will impact us very slowly. The nature of living in today's world is that our mind is naturally submerged in a reality that distorts the truth about Hashem. Not only is Hashem's presence hidden, His presence or the value of His presence is minimized and denied. By default, we feel disconnected from Hashem's reality. Spirituality seems abstract. The only way to combat this is to immerse our minds in thoughts about Hashem's reality in a way of das, in a way through which we can form a profound, absolute, deep connection. Learning in a way of das has the power of genuine transformation. When we focus our attention and become entirely involved in learning and thinking about Hashem's greatness on an intimate or experiential level, those ideas penetrate our hearts and become part of our system of values. Learning this way always leads to action because it actually changes us. When you learn about Hashem, take time to process what you're learning. Think about it. Don't let the words remain abstract or technical. Turn it over in your mind until it has personal relevance and meaning to you. Give yourself moments of da'as. Ask yourself questions such as, what does this idea look like in real life? Where in my life or in the world around me can I see this concept? How does this idea coincide with the situation I am dealing with right now? How does this message apply to me on a personal level in my current set of circumstances? In what way does this idea match or clash with my personal beliefs? If I would accept this idea as being true, what would change for me? These are just some examples of questions we can ask ourselves that take our learning to a whole new level, a level of da'as. The more we think about Hashem's reality in a focused way of da'as, the more connected we feel with His reality. There are no shortcuts to this method. It takes an investment of time, but it is proven to be effective. The powerful impact of da'as, experiential knowing, is a big part of what makes group discussions priceless. The thoughts, experiences, and the questions shared by other participants of the group stretches our mind to a whole new level of reflection, contemplation, and ultimately connection. Learning and thinking about Hashem's reality on my own and in a group setting was the greatest turning point in my life. And my experience over the years gives me the confidence and the evidence to say that doing this is fail-proof. The more we experience awareness of Hashem, the less we feel like we belong on the other side of the street. We come to know, deeply know, on a level of da'as, that we belong here where Hashem is the only operative truth. The more we immerse our minds in thoughts about Hashem's awesomeness, the more connected we feel to that truth. And that connection naturally causes us to detach from ideas that contradict the truth. For years, my sense of worthlessness seemed to be a valid argument. I desperately, valiantly tried to disprove it, but it often simply pulled me into its darkness without even giving me a chance to speak up. But when I absorbed the truth of Hashem's awesomeness, when I started seeing His reality as an active, dynamic force in my personal life, the entire game changed. It was as if my disempowering labels had been wearing a mask through which they appeared to be true, and now the mask was pulled off. When worthlessness was dressed up as truth, it had the power to control me. Sometimes, even with all the rational arguments in the world, I could not fight it. But when I experienced the worthiness of my awesome self through many hours of the da'as described above and the action it inspired, the mask came off and worthlessness was clearly a lie. At that point, my monstrous worthlessness started losing its power over me. Today, I do not even need to fight it. When I see it creeping up, I could laugh at its foolishness and I could keep going with the dignity and the worthiness that is the signature of our truth, our awesome self. Here's a summary of Chapter 6. In our effort to connect with the truth about our awesome self, the greatest challenge is the fact that Hashem is hidden, and we are submerged in a culture that denies His presence or His value. The solution to this is learning and thinking about Hashem in a way of profound connection known as da'as, intimately, experientially knowing. Here are some questions to reflect and connect. Where in my life am I creating this space for my connection with Hashem to take root in my mind and heart? In which part of my day will I allow myself to think about Hashem in a way of da'as? Which situations or people in my life offer me the opportunity to talk about my relationship with Hashem? How can I make the most of these opportunities? How can I expand these openings? Here's a little exercise to grow your connection. Take a few moments every day to think about Hashem and your relationship with Hashem. When you say the tefillah of Adain Olam, Master of the World, take an extra moment to think about what these words and ideas mean in your personal life, in whatever situations or challenges you're currently dealing with.